Hi there, welcome to Authentic Appalachia, where we highlight people, places, and events that are unique and special to our region of Southeast Tennessee.
My specialty crop in my area is sourwood honey, and sourwood is a lovely honey, very mild, has a unique flavor, very difficult to make. I have to move my bees to the mountains for the sourwood honey because the trees grow more prolific in higher elevations, and some years we don't get a crop at all. Some years the trees don't give off any nectar. Some years the storms, the strong summer storms, knock the blossoms off the trees, so then the honey flows over. So 2 years ago I didn't make a crop. Last year made a beautiful crop. This year, mediocre. They had a lot of rain this year. So rain isn't always favorable for all farmers.
I was going to say, there's got to be a lot of challenges besides bears and weather that can...
There are. I've seen it all in my bee yards. I have remote yards around the county, and even here we've had bears come through and destroy my hives. So it's a challenge. I've had wild boars go through bee yards, snakes, black widows, scorpions,
Oh my goodness.
It's just part of it. You're very careful, and you notice a lot of things. Yeah.
So the bees kind of know you
No.
now? Okay.
No.
So
We won't romanticize it, no. Bees only live during the busy time 35 to 45 days.
Right.
So their first 21 days they spend in the colony doing chores, doing certain things, and that at about day 21 they will start foraging outside of the hive, and they will forage until about 35 to 45 days when they're basically worn out. So no, I don't think the bees know me. I'd like to think that, but I don't think so. I do have a fondness, but no.
Okay. And you said that the bees really don't depend on us as much. How much do we as humans depend on the bees?
Well, a great deal for all of the pollination that they do for farmers. I've pollinated for many years in state and out of the state of Tennessee, and it's amazing. Honeybees can be brought out in the millions to a farm crop to help pollinate, because we're in a monoculture society where there's 300 acres of something instead of 10 where you might have enough local pollinators. Honeybees are brought out for insurance, or just to ensure that they're going to get a good crop, a good fruit, good vegetables. Honeybees are very necessary. They don't realize it. They're not doing it for them,
Right.
or for us. They're doing it for them. They're gathering so they can provide for their family. They're social insects. They care about the greater good of their colony and their hive mates, and it's actually admirable to see. Let's see.
Okay, do you see a rise in beekeeping? Has that been something that either on a personal level, people at their homes, or on a business level, is beekeeping on the rise?
I believe it is. I've been a beekeeper since it wasn't cool. I believe it is. The cost of everything for beekeeping has gone up because of this. The cost of a queen, when I used to pay $5 and I'm now paying $25. Things have changed because demand has gone up.
Right.
I think everybody has good intentions to start a hive or two, but it is difficult. There's a lot to know. There's a lot of challenges, and a lot of them don't last long term.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your daily life like on the farm? I know that may change from season to season.
It does. It's lighter now. I still have to monitor my colonies to make sure they have enough food to get through the winter. That's the biggest thing. A warm winter, they're going to eat more. A colder winter, they're not going to eat as much. So it is continual to know how much food they have in their colony and to supplement if necessary. In the summertime, in the springtime, it's very busy. When the bees are growing, the colony is growing, making sure that the bees have enough room in the colony to grow. If they don't, the tendency is for them to swarm, to find a bigger home. So that half of the bees will leave the colony and find a new place to live. And when you're in it for honey production, that's not what you want.
Right.
You want a good, strong colony that's going to produce a lot of honey. You can't make honey with a weak colony.
So your busy time is
March through October, where it's really busy. Yeah, things are winding down now,
Okay.
which I appreciate because I can spend more time making the products in the honey house, you know, while I have a small bit of a lull.
okay. Well, tell us a little bit about the products you make. I know we got to see quite a bit, and you do quite a bit with the.
I do. You know, when you become a beekeeper and start making beeswax, you have to ask yourself, well, what am I going to do with this beeswax? So that started me making skincare products, soaps, lip balms. Beeswax is a great product to use for a moisture barrier on your skin. It keeps the moisture in. And so that's some of the things I make. I make all different types of flavored creamed honeys, infused honeys, honey mustard. My sourwood honey is my specialty honey. The reason it's called sourwood is in primitive days, woodsmen would chew on the branches for moisture, and the branches taste sour. So that's how it got this nickname.
Okay.
Its botanical name is Oxydendrum arboreum, and it's a beautiful tree, one of the quickest ones to turn red in the fall. But they don't get their flowers until they start blooming about mid-June. About June 15th, I try to have my bees on the sourwood field. So some of the other products that I make are propolis products. Propolis is a resin that the bees gather. Now, bees live in a small cavity. You know, how can they control bacteria from growing in this cavity? What they do is they gather this resin, this propolis resin from trees, and they line the colony where the queen lays with a thin layer of this resin. And that keeps it a bacteria-free, sterile environment for them to live in. Otherwise, bacteria would grow and that they couldn't survive well in a cavity like that, you know. So propolis products are one of my specialties that I make with propolis. Soaps, lip balm, body balms, because it's healing and a great moisturizer as well. Can't think of anything else.
See, I was going to say, anything else you can think of that would be important to know about the bees or about the products or about visiting the farm?
Yeah, we're open year-round. I'm closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because those are the days the rafting companies in our area are closed. I'm open from 10 to 5, noon to 5 on Sunday. I do sell in the Chattanooga and Cleveland area. And
you mentioned some places that people could pick up your products if they weren't in this area.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned where they could pick up in Chattanooga?
I do. I only sell my wildflower honey at Whole Foods, both locations. I'm at the Village Market in Collegedale, Apple Valley Orchard here in Bradley County, Cook's Food Store, the Dam Deli here in Ocoee, and I think Abundant Living Organics health food store in Cleveland I'm at as well. And I've been selling to these stores for 10 plus years now, so we have a really good relationship and they understand the importance of a good honey, a good product.
Okay.
I make other varieties of honey other than sourwood. I make wildflower and what I call my spring blossom honey, which is produced in the spring. I feel there's more pollens in the spring blossom. When the bees are making sourwood, there's not as much in bloom at that time. So I don't feel there's as many pollens, plus the sourwood doesn't crystallize. Crystallization is not a bad thing for honey. Crystallization is evidence that the pollens still remain in the honey. Some people think that it means that the honey's been adulterated, that they've put sugar in the honey. It doesn't mean that at all. Most honeys will crystallize over a certain period of time. The temperature that the honey's stored at has a lot to do with it, and the pollens and the mineral matter that's in the honey. When you filter that out, the honey won't crystallize. But when you leave that in the honey might crystallize. But again, the nutritional value is there. Okay. All my honey, I don't filter any of my honeys. I do a coarse strain on my honeys. So the coarse strain doesn't take out any pollens, any mineral matter. It takes out maybe pieces of beeswax or any sometimes part of a flower or part of a bee leg or something. So filtering is not ideal for honey, but some places do it for whatever reason. But again, crystallized honey is not a bad honey. It's evidence that the honey, it has all that nutritional value in it. When we remove the honey from the hive, the hive is kept at 90 degrees. When we remove it from that temperature, bring it into colder temperatures, 60 degrees or 70 degrees, that's when it'll start to crystallize. Okay. And all you have to do is gently warm it, set a bottle in the sun on a hot day, and the honey will reliquefy. Yeah, honeybees are so important for the pollination that we discussed earlier. They can fly so far. On a hot day, if it's above, or on any day, as long as it's not raining and above 55 degrees, they are flying. Their muscles don't work under 47 degrees, so if it's cold, they stay in the hive and they will cluster in a ball. And the center of the cluster bees are warmer, so they can move and they can consume food. The bees on the outside of the cluster cannot move, so the center bees will come to the outside and warm those bees so they can move around. So, a cold temperature at night, when it gets in the 20s, the bees are in a big ball, in a big cluster. And they can easily starve if they don't have food that they can move to get to in the hive. And that's my job, to make sure that the bees can access food to get them through the winter time.
Yeah.
Bees can handle the cold, they can't handle moisture. That's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they really do kind of look out for each other as a community.
They do. They're social insects. They all work together as a team in the hive, taking care of everything that goes on in the hive, taking care of the queen, collecting pollen. Pollen is baby food. They bring it in the hive because that's what they feed the larvae. They feed it royal jelly and they feed it bee pollen. So yeah, they're always looking to restock, bring more pollen in, bring more nectar in. And we're lucky enough that they make enough surplus nectar to share with us.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to check out some of your products, and I thank you so much for talking with us and sharing a little bit more about bees and Appalachian Bee Farm.